All right, we're ready for step 4 and step 5, and we'll go over both of those steps in this video. In step 4, we are cutting our sunset circle into strips, kind of like these that you see on the collage. And then in step 5, we are gluing those strips down separate from each other so that we'll see a little thin black line of the black paper coming through. Okay, so we're creating our sunset retro background. So I've already blended my marker colors on top of my circle that I traced, and now I just want to create lines that will help me know exactly where to cut my strips. Okay, so when I'm making my lines, I need either a ruler, and it's not to measure, it's just to make a straight line, or just anything that has a straight edge. So I could literally use the edge of my colored pencil box to make straight lines, but I'm going to do it with a ruler. And so I want to place the ruler at the top of my circle. I'm actually going to go like this. And I want to place the edge at the top right here. And I want to make sure that it's not angled like that or like that, but like this. And make sure you don't make your strips vertical this way. Make sure that they go horizontal top to bottom. But I'm going to draw them like this. Okay, holding it with one hand, I'm going to hold my ruler down and just draw a horizontal line. So you can kind of see it right here. There's a horizontal line, and you'll be able to see your own better than probably the ones that I'm drawing. I'm going to place my ruler now on the line that I just made. So a line goes right here and right here. And I want to place my ruler to meet that line, not past it, not a little bit down, to meet it right here. I'm going to make us a little bit closer to you so that you can see this step better. Okay. All right, so then my ruler is on that line, and I'm going to draw another line. And I did not want to cut out my circle yet because it's just much easier to draw these lines before your circle is cut out. Place your ruler up to that line again and draw your third line. So I really like using a ruler because I know how to make the distance of each strip, because the distance of each strip, or the width of each strip, is literally the width of my ruler. So it makes it really easy. Instead of measuring out, all right, is this one 1 or 2 inches? I just am using the width of the ruler as the width of my strips. And it's about 1 inch. All right, we're getting near the end. Place the ruler on the line that you just made, further down. And you know what? This last strip right here is about the width of my ruler, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So you can kind of see all of my lines coming across, and we're about to cut all these strips. All right, so let's bring us back up. Get our cord out of the way, and let's make sure we're all focused and good. All right, perfect. So I just used my ruler. I traced horizontal lines. Now I want to use my scissors to cut out my circle. And when I'm cutting out, I'm just going carefully, just as I did when I was cutting out my car. Using the back of my scissors, making sure that I'm going right on that first circle line. Notice that I'm turning my paper as I cut, so I'm not angling in towards myself at that awkward angle. Try your best to cut this as cleanly as you can. And anywhere where you see like a little corner coming off, just trim it off. And that looks pretty good. All right, awesome. So already this looks really cool. I'm going to just set the scraps off to the side. And I could glue this right here, but in a lot of vintage or retro artwork, you'll see these thin black lines coming through. So we want to create that effect, which is why we are now going to cut our strips. I'm going to just start here at the bottom, cutting very cleanly as much as I can along that line that I made. I really want to be careful when I'm cutting these lines because you're going to see that edge. And if you cut really messily, like really hairy, then you're going to see a really hairy edge. All right, cut your next strip. If you're having trouble seeing your strip or seeing your line, you can always just draw it darker. Like on this one, it's a little bit hard for me to see. So I'm going to draw it a little bit darker. Let's place it like here. All right. All right, perfect. Now I can see that a little bit better. You could draw your lines on the back of your circle. So kind of like back here, you could draw lines. But I like to draw them on the top or on the front because I can kind of see the direction of my marker. All right, next strip. And as I'm making the strips, I'm not just letting them fall anywhere. I'm actually kind of laying them out so they don't really get mixed up. And I know exactly which one comes first, second, and third. I'm not trying to mix them up like this and make it all look funky on the edges. I want to keep just making that circle as I go. Carefully, carefully cut those strips. We're almost done with part 4 and we're about to do part 5 where we're going to glue our strips down. All right, last but not least, this is the final cut. All right. Again, don't place these strips just anywhere like this. You want them to all together form a circle or now an oval. All right. So because this circle is now cut up and they're separate from each other, we aren't necessarily going to have an actual circle. We're now going to have an oval because we almost took our circle and stretched it out. Okay, so before we start getting our glue and start gluing these down, I want to arrange this exactly where I want it on the paper. Now on my collage, I made it on square paper, but you're probably going to be making it on rectangle paper. So you want to glue these maybe not quite all in the middle, but just above, leaving a little bit of space down here. Okay, so I'm going to arrange this like this, not angled. I really want these all in line. So not angled, not going off my paper, all in line like this. And I want to leave maybe like 1/4 of an inch, like that much space in between my strips. All right. That looks pretty good. There's about the same amount of space over here as there is over here. It's not closer to this edge or closer to this edge, and I like where it is. So I'm ready to start gluing. When I glue using a glue stick, I don't want to make it all the way like lipstick. You don't need that much glue. You just need to see that it's barely going over. And just do one at a time. You might want some scrap paper for this when you're gluing so you don't get glue on your table. And what I'm going to do is just glue the edges first. The edges are the most important part because if they don't have enough glue, then you're going to get something that's called a floppy fish. That's what I call it, where your paper is flipping up. All right, let's place it down carefully, making sure it's not angled or going off my paper. And let's glue it in the middle. All right, I'm going to arrange it before I start pressing down, making sure it's good. That looks good. If I use enough glue, I can easily just press it down, but you can also use your cap to kind of press and burnish your paper down or rub it down. Okay, next piece. Glue the edges. Remember, don't just glue the middle. If your edges don't have enough glue, then I'll show you actually what happens. So I'm going to leave that actually without glue to show you what will happen. Okay, we're going to place it down, leaving about 1/4 of an inch. Don't make it have no gap or too big of a gap. Just leave a little bit of a gap so you can see that black paper coming through. All right, press it down. All right, so this is the corner I didn't have enough glue on. If I don't put glue, you get this. And Miss Wright calls this a floppy fish, which just helps me remember that my paper cannot be flipping up like a floppy fish on a table. I gotta have enough glue, press it down, good to go. All right, flip it over, glue on the edges first, little bit in the middle, not too much. Edges and corners are the most important part. And again, you can kind of see if you start getting wacko and it's angled like that or overlapping, your whole circle is going to get offline. So you want to make sure you're evenly placing it down as best as you can. All right, I got it in a good spot. Once I got it in a good spot, then I press it down. One by one. If you are using thicker white paper, you might have to press it down a little bit harder. I'm actually using computer paper, so it actually does like to stick a little bit better. All right, pressing it down. I can always kind of go back and just press it down again a little bit better. Okay, 2 more. And remember, this is your final artwork, so you really want to take your time on this and take some care, because if you rush through this part, your whole retro card collage is going to suffer. You really want to take your time. All right, when you get to the top with this little semicircle piece, make sure it's not over to the left or over to the right, but right in the middle, 1/4 of an inch up. All right, so you can kind of see this is no longer a circle, this has become an oval because we kind of cut the circle up and we expanded it by adding these black gaps, which is just the black of the paper. And this looks awesome, and I am ready for part 6. So let's move on.